So I found Ethels Club on Instagram.
Yes.
And I thought this is such a cool idea. Like, I can't believe no one's come up with this.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
When the idea sort of permeated, it was because I was looking for something like Ethels Club.
Okay.
And I couldn't find it. And I'm really good at Googling.
Yeah.
And I tried all kinds of things and nothing came up, and eventually got to the point where I felt that I should just do it.
Oh,
and so
wow.
then I did, and here we are.
Actually, let's begin with
Sure.
outlining what is Ethels Club?
So Ethels Club is the first social club created for people of color.
Yeah.
So what that means is that we are a for us, by us company. So my staff and I are all people of color, and we've created a space strictly for people of color.
Yeah.
In regards to the kind of programming we have, most of the items, if not all of the items in this space, have been created by a person of color. We carry brands created by people of color.
Okay.
It's really meant to be a platform to give voice to different companies, brands, artists, designers that maybe don't get that get that position on a national stage.
Okay.
So we're giving that to them.
Do you feel like it's somewhat political? Like, to say we're creating a space that's just for Black people?
I think when you talk about race in the United States, it makes people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
No matter if you're talking about it in a way that we are, which I think people tend to think of exclusive, inclusive terms automatically. We are not saying that, white people can't come. What we are saying is that it is a place for people of color to come. The heart of what we're building is that we want to be a place that empowers people of color. And that really kind of gives them, I hate to use the word safe space, but kind of,
No, I think that's
there aren't many places, there aren't many things created with people of color in mind, and we are, we have done that from, we've thought about small things like what's in the bathroom, and someone on my team was like, we need edge control. Like, you're not going to get that in your average bathroom, and lots of things that we feel like have not been in the narrative of many places that we have kind of made center stage for what we're building.
Well, where do you draw that line between being inclusive versus segregating groups of people?
I don't think the line is necessarily for us to draw.
I
think that if people identify as if a person identifies as a person of color, and they believe in the empowerment of people of color, they're welcome within our walls. Okay. Because what we don't want is a situation where, the brown voice has to take a step, stand behind the white dominant voice in the room, which we can kind of skirt around it, but most spaces in the US, that is the dominant culture. That is what we all are kind of submissive to, whether or not we want to be. And so this is me actively taking a stand against that and saying this place is not like any other place that you've been to. Just because there hasn't been one.
But how do you go about building something like this? I feel like this is no small task.
Yes. So my background is in real estate technology. So I've come from 2 different startups.
Wait, what is real estate technology?
Everyone always asks me this. It's kind of whatever you want it to be. Basically, if you can marry a space with some sort of tech, you can kind of slap that label on it. So a really easy example would be like
Airbnb.
Airbnb is a real estate technology company. They have spaces you can book online.
Okay.
Real estate technology.
Yeah.
So the first startup I worked with was more in that hospitality business, and I loved it. And the second one I worked in was more in the real estate, asset management, financial services, which not super passionate about, but I learned a ton. And so from there, just, being in the space, I, became equipped with just sort of the business acumen on how to start a startup. So when this kind of grew from merely an idea, and I didn't think that I was going to get the response that we received. I sort of was kicking around the idea. I did some competitive research and was like, okay, well, this doesn't exist, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Do people even want this? So I started the Instagram to see if, anyone caught on. And within the first, I believe, 2 weeks, we had over 700 signups on the website. And this is a website that, didn't really say anything. It basically alluded to the fact that there would be a club.
Yeah.
And the response was
incredible.
Overwhelming. Overwhelming.
Yeah.
I'm looking at my phone and I just, see the signups and I was like, oh, this is kind of weird. And then it just didn't stop. And I was like, oh, wait, maybe I'm onto something. So that was, I think we've digressed from your question a little bit, but that was
really good.
That was sort of when I was like, oh crap, I gotta build this company now.
Yeah.
Luckily, I've done it before, so it wasn't scary in that regard, but I've never worked at a company where I've had this sort of natural, organic customer response. It's usually very difficult to find market fit. It's usually easy to build a product, but then people don't want it, or people don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And we have the opposite situation here, where people are pulling it out of my hands.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's exciting, and it makes it a lot easier to get up in the morning knowing that people are rooting for our success because they also want to see the product come to life.
No, really. I have a question in general about like entrepreneurship,
Sure.
because I think a lot of people have ideas. And bringing them to fruition is sort of the issue.
Right.
But, like, what is the first step to starting a company, especially one that is tangible?
Right.
Like, where do you get the money? Or do you even start with that? Like, do you start with your customers, or do you start with funding? Like, in your experience, what's working for you?
So I think the first thing that one should do is to talk to other people.
Yeah.
Because I've seen founders have really good ideas, but they kind of do it like this, and they're not able to build in the way that we just spoke about, where people want it. So I think if you have a really good idea, I would write it down and kind of flesh it out generally. It doesn't need to, I think a lot of people feel like, okay, I have an idea, I have to write, a business plan. That needs to come at some point, but I don't think that's the first thing you need to do.
Yeah.
I think it's really, asking yourself, what am I trying to solve for? Because if you have a really cool idea, which is, I want to make really cool lamps, right?
Yeah.
If the lamps are just cool, that's not going to move the needle. Is it a better lamp because it, saves more energy, or it does a thing? And if you can speak to that and find people who believe in the solve, it becomes a lot easier, I think, to do the rest of it, which is kind of more boring, tactical stuff.
Okay.
If you're trying to create a startup, and there's a slight difference between a small business and a startup has a growth trajectory that scales really quickly. So a startup wants to have one company one day, and then in 3 months have 5 more locations.
Yeah.
Whereas a small business is fine having that one business, and there's nothing wrong with either. I think startups are very cool and trendy right now, so a lot of people want to have one. I think that depending on what your product is, certain aspects can speak to you in different ways. But I think after you flesh out the idea and you figure out what you're actually solving for, I think getting feedback from real people is really helpful, because what you don't want to do is build a really cool lamp and then everyone says like, I don't get it. You want someone to say, I understand why you're building it and I think it's cool. Also, the more people that you have cheering you on makes it so much easier.
Yeah.
You start creating your own cheerleading squad who is rooting for your success. You have people who are introducing you to the right connections. They are advocating for you on their personal networks. They are bringing their personal lives to your cause, and you can't buy that. You know? So to have that is, I think, crucial. Also, as a founder, it helps you kind of stay in the game, because you realize that not that you're building for other people who are real, who want you to succeed as well. So you can get to that part, and the rest becomes very boring. I mean, you have to start raising capital. You have to, if you want to raise money from venture capital firms, you have to go and meet them. If you want to raise money from, personal friends and families, personal friends and family members, they still are going to, want to see that you have a real plan and not just a really cool idea. And then it can kind of iterate in a couple of different directions from there.
Well, tell me about your upbringing. And also, like, growing up, what was your relationship with money? Because I find that really fascinating with, like, entrepreneurs.
So I come from a large family of 5 kids. We weren't wealthy by any means.
Yeah.
And I think what that taught me is, so I'm the middle child, which I think has made me sympathetic and more empathetic to people because I had my older, cooler siblings.
Wait, what's your sign?
I'm an Aries.
Are you an Aries? I keep attracting Aries people.
That's
wow.
so funny.
Yeah. Love it.
So I had my older siblings who were very cool and interesting and, you know, doing stuff that I wasn't allowed to do, like going ride bikes and stuff. And I had my younger siblings who were kind of annoying, but I liked being the boss of them, I think.
Yeah.
And the dynamic in our household was very loving, very, I wouldn't say competitive, actually. I have a lot of friends who come from bigger families, and that was a huge part of their dynamic. We weren't very competitive, and I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah.
But I think we've always been very good at cheering each other on.
Yeah.
Very good at it, which I think has been, when I first started Ethels Club, you know, I was like, I have this crazy idea. And as it's kind of grown, the people that I've gone to either, you know, throw ideas at or just get feedback on have been my siblings.
Wow.
They are kind of the first to know generally anything that's going on in the company.
Yeah.
Because I value their feedback. I value them saying that's a terrible idea, which they have, you know, they're like, don't do that. And I'm like, okay, I thought it was cool, but never mind. So I think you can't buy that sort of honesty and that sort of network that you can depend on in that way. My connection with money growing up, I think that, like I said, we didn't grow up wealthy. Generally taken care of. My stepdad's an entrepreneur. Yeah. So I think I saw that he loved what he did. Yeah. And I think that most people, I think that most children, most adults in their life hate going to work. Yeah. They never come home and they're like, culture. That's awesome. You know, they're like stressed out and tired and it sucked. And I think that there was definitely that dynamic, but I think it was very interesting watching him as a child, because he literally loved being at work. He wanted to bring us all the time. Like, it was a huge part of his personality. It was great. And I think, again, while having this scaries, while going out on my own and building this, it's been great to have him because I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And he's like, you'll be fine. And I'm like, no, I'm freaking out. And he's like, it'll be fine. You'll figure it out. Yeah. And he's very
level-headed. That's literally how it is.
He's like, there's going to be 100 fires. You're going to put out 2 and figure out how to do the other 98 tomorrow. Yeah. And I don't think you have that kind of perspective unless you've lived it. So that's been, you know, I feel very lucky for having that. Yeah. I've spoken to a lot of my friends recently, and they're like, why did you leave your job to do this? Like,
you left your job?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my, okay, wait, when did you leave? Oh, wow. Yeah. When did you leave your job?
So I left about 2 weeks ago, fully.
Oh, congratulations.
So, thank you. Yeah,
You're
so
free.
I know. I mean, I loved working there, and I loved the team. What we were building was great. It just didn't, like, Ethels keeps me up at night in the best way. Yeah. Like, I'm up, like, I'm going to redo the website. Like, I'm neurotically taking notes on my phone. Like, someone will say something, I'm like, oh, that's good. You know, like, I'm taking pictures of different designs, sent to our interior designer. Like, it has consumed me in the best way possible. Yeah. And I've never had that with work before. I've always liked going to work generally. I've never hated it. I've never had a job that I despised. Yeah. But there's something very different about a job that you love. Yeah. And I luckily have found myself here. So, yes, I quit my job. And my friends were like, you're insane. Yeah, of course. I think over the last 2 weeks, as they've gotten to know more about what it is and they kind of understand it, they get it, you know. Yeah. And at this point, it's about chasing the dream. So to any entrepreneurs watching, it's going to be scary. You're going to feel like every decision you make is probably the wrong one, but you kind of just you have to trust in your gut and trust in yourself that you can do it, and it'll work out. Yeah. And that's been a learning curve for me. Well,
when did you trust yourself enough to quit your job? Like, at what point do you even know when it's time to let go of one thing and fully, like, jump into another?
So I think it comes back to two things. One, I have a very flexible position. I worked at a startup, and I think I was in a room full of people who understand what it's like when you have an idea and you believe in it and you want to build it out. So I was incredibly lucky from that perspective.
Okay.
They were actually even quite helpful prior to me leaving, especially because I'm in the real estate space. I was like, I needed help just kind of aggregating different spaces to look at, and my team was like, oh, we'll help you.
Oh my gosh, that's so
yeah,
sweet.
so it was really nice. So they've been incredible, but I think that just the interest we've had has been so high that I felt like if I didn't shift focus, it wasn't going to work.
Wow.
Because once you start building out a real space that humans are going to go to, there's a bunch of technicalities that have to go involved. You have to get the space looked at. We have to sit down with the landlord 100 times. And then people, as customers, once they start passing you money, you have to be able to focus on it 100%.
Yeah.
So all of those worries, I knew it was going to be within the next 2 months. I didn't necessarily expect 2 weeks ago. Between just customer interest, right now we have over 1,200 people on our waiting list. Just incredible. Because we've had absolutely no marketing. That has all been word of mouth, peer-to-peer, people telling their friends, tagging their friends.
And you know what? I find there's a lot of this like, oh, don't tell anyone your idea, or else people are going to steal from you. But I love that you are flourishing because you're telling people your idea.
Yeah, I guess I kind of bet that, if someone did come and steal the idea and it was better than mine, maybe that's fine. Maybe I work with them. Maybe I figure out a way to say, hey, I was working on this too, but maybe two minds are better than one.
Yeah.
But I also, again, I think that a lot of what I'm building is community based, and building it in a silo by myself is not community based. Not getting ideas. The amount of people who've reached out to me to be a part of our programming or have events are people I would have never reached out to because I would have been like, they don't want to do it at my thing, and like they're like, I 100% want to. When are you having your launch party? I want to open it. Like incredible things that would not have happened had I not sort of taken the leap to tell the world about it. That actually was a fear of mine when I started out. I was like,
really?
Should I tell people? I was very cards close to chest. But then I kind of realized, I'll get more help and more sort of, I'll get the right people in my world by telling people about it.
Of course.
And the first thing that happened when I kind of opened the doors, if you will, was Roxane Gay, who's a very famous
author.
Black author. Yes, she retweeted it. And that was like an insane kind of uptick. And she would never have retweeted it had I not felt comfortable to kind of tell the world what I was doing.
Right.
So it's that kind of thinking where like, yes, I could have hid it for a year, but
like did it undercover.
Sure, but by not doing that, it almost has more of like a we're doing this together feeling, which I like. I want people to feel like they had a hand in what we're going to create.
What are your biggest fears when it comes to jumping into starting your own business?
Biggest fears. The one at the very top in red letters is failure. I don't like failing. Yeah. I'm not good at it. I'm working on it. Yeah. I hate losing anything.
How do you define failure? Because how can you fail?
Right. I guess we build the club and no one comes, right? That would be a little bit of a failure. We build the club and I don't know, maybe we don't even build the club. Like, I guess anything could happen, and I am very much a paranoid worrywart.
Yeah.
Which
aren't we all?
Is, it has, I don't know if it has any good perks to it, mostly bad ones. So I spend a lot of time thinking about that. I have a very calm Californian boyfriend who's like, none of that is even kind of going to happen. Chill out. And I have to be like,
you need that energy.
Okay, but what about if there's a tsunami? Because I don't know. And Bensay is in kind of a good location, but sort of near the water. And like,
what if Trump just decides he's not?
That
you know
actually
what I mean?
Truly keeps me up at night. I'm like, he might shut down. I don't know what, but I don't want to take the risk.
Never.
So yes,
we would kill him.
I know.
Yeah,
So yes, all of that keeps me up at night. I think the biggest one is failure. I think building something that people don't like, have you ever, I'm sure you've, purchased things or gone to things and you're like, that kind of sucked.
Yeah.
I don't want that to happen. So we're spending a lot of time as a team to nurture and build out a part of it so that the worst feeling you'll have is that you don't have any bad feelings, that it is very much.
But you know what, I actually think that's a good thing. So because I put on events every now and then, and that's always a fear of mine. On the day of, I'm like, wow, no one's gonna come.
No one's gonna come, this is gonna suck.
No one's gonna come, this is gonna be trash. Or people will come and they'll be like, this is the worst decision I've ever made. But on another hand, I also feel like in order to really serve the people that you're trying to serve, there has to be some people that just don't fuck with know what you're doing.
I know.
And of course, they'll probably be in the minority. And it will probably just be one or two people.
I agree. Also, that reminds me that every time I have a birthday party, I do the same thing. I'm like, I'm not having a birthday party. Then 2 weeks before, I'm like, I'm going to have one, but no one's going to come. And then everyone comes, literally. And it's fine. And everyone's like, thanks for inviting me. And I'm like, okay, I'll do the same thing next year. And it's...
and the anxiety just continues.
Exactly. Yes, there's always a chance that there are going to be people who don't like it. I just don't want that to be the case,
I know.
I guess I'm waiting for the first troll, or I'm waiting for the first negative response, because it's been so uphill that I think I've gotten not too jaded. I know that there are going to be people like you mentioned who are going to be like, this isn't for me, but we haven't had that yet, so I'm bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and I'm like, this is gonna be great. But we have taken a lot of thought into the design of the space. When you walk into Ethels Club, you're gonna the response will hopefully and 100% of the time be, holy shit, this is cool. Because we want it to be what I told the interior designer, and I think she thought I was insane. I was like, so imagine Solange opened a social club. Just make that.
Oh my gosh.
And she was
that's all you needed to tell me, because I'm now take all my money.
She was like, okay. I'm like, but everywhere, from the ceiling to the walls. Would Solange like it? Would she change it? We should change it. It has to evoke her
an emotion.
Exactly. And she was like, okay. She wrote it down. She probably was like, this lady's insane. But that's kind of I don't know. I think specifically, and not to go into a whole deluge about Solange, but that album, A Seat at the Table, I think the songs on it, the design of it, everything about it just truly spoke to me, and it was something I had never seen before.
Wow.
And I'm 27, I've seen a good amount of stuff, and it was I was like, oh man, I love this. This is, I want to be around it, I want to have more of it, and we want to take that same sort of feeling, capture it, and make that Ethels Club.
Yes. Well, do you feel limited by your race or your gender, or more so empowered? Just navigating space as an entrepreneur.
So, raising venture capital, definitely hindered by race, gender, what I'm wearing, what my hair looks like, if I'm wearing the right makeup, is it too sparkly, all of that, which is, the venture capital world is a very male, white
it's very white. So how do you overcome or just navigate?
What we're planning on doing right now is strictly raising from brown and black VC firms.
Wow.
I have a very strong respect and feeling that to build what we're trying to build, it has to be brown throughout. I think to have the purses held by a cadre of, white men in Silicon Valley, to build a brown and black club in Bed-Stuy does not totally make sense. And I've thought about it because there's a ton of VC money in the world to be had. I mean, the Wings raised $112 million.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, they've raised a ton of capital, and that's helpful because now they have 6 spaces going on 9. So they're able to do things in a quicker manner because they're raising all this capital, and I'd love to do that, but I don't want to risk the heart of what we're building. Right. I don't want it to be this other thing because those guys don't understand that we need edge control in each of the bathrooms. You know, they're like, I don't get it. What is it? Like, I don't want to have to basically argue for things that I feel like we deserve.
Yes.
And
yeah.
So because of that, we're strictly trying to raise money from regular people. We plan on crowdfunding some of this so that people who believe in what we're doing can, you know, give us capital to do it. From private investors who are brown and black, and from VC firms, which there are a few. Yeah. I think there are about 25, 30 well-known ones. Yeah. To help us raise capital as well. So I'm trying to really stick to the vision. My friend jokingly, she was like, oh, so like it's in and out. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, it's like how they won't leave the West Coast because it'll taint what they're building. So they stick to where they are, and they stick to the farms they know, and they don't try to feed everybody because at that point they're serving nobody. And I was like, wow, yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm in and out.
I love that.
I know, it was great. And it was putting it into a very concise, clear way. Even because I tend to ramble, and she was like, oh, come on, it's like the cheeseburger place. And I was like, okay.
No, I'm obsessed.
Never tell anyone that. No, it's good.
I mean, no, I asked that because I think, and I sometimes fall into this trap of feeling like sometimes you need access to whiteness in order to be successful or like achieve material success in some way or other. And I just wonder if like when you're building something so specifically black, do you have that dissonance or that conflict of like, I need some sort of access to whiteness or like, is that just an illusion completely? So
I wouldn't say it's an illusion. It is something that I think about, but I think that our members and the people who support us would have more respect that maybe it takes us an extra 6 months instead of kind of going the other route, which is interacting, or I guess having most of our power be given by white companies, which I think, again, it just doesn't jibe with what we're doing. You know, we're trying to say that we're a space for brown and black culture with sort of, not to be dramatic, but a white overseer, you know? And like, and when VCs are involved in companies, they have a say. And I don't, you know, I then will be fighting for the vision of the company with someone who has never once taken a step in our shoes. Yeah. And it seems inauthentic a little bit. And I'm trying to build something real. The name Ethels Club is named after my grandmother because I didn't want it to be this sort of, you know, classic startup name that's kind of hip and cool and doesn't really mean anything. Like I wanted it to be rooted in something real.
There's so much intention behind every single piece of your business.
And I want that to reflect through. You know, I want when you come there to know that every piece was hand-chosen, hand-picked, curated by a team of people who knew that you would appreciate it. Yeah. You know, that's a huge part of everything that we're building. I mean, the brands that we're even bringing into this space, there's going to be a small boutique. We had a list of about 300, and I think the list is down to about 17 because we want it needs to be like, not perfect, but we want you to know that we put thought into it. We didn't just slap it together. Exactly. When I first started telling people about this idea, a lot of white people that I spoke with, you know, they were like, this is a cool idea. You know what you should do? You should go to Goodwill and you should get some chairs and some tables and like go to a basement. And I was like, you've missed the point, you know? But to them, they're like, well, they'll be fine with that, you know? And that part is a huge thing that I'm trying to overcome. And the fact that brown and black people deserve beautiful spaces. Yes. And I don't think, and again, I'm not generalizing here for all of us, but I don't think we feel that we do. I think we feel uncomfortable in beautiful spaces. I feel like we feel like we don't belong. Because beautiful
it's spaces, not accustomed.
Right. You go to the nicest hotel in, you know, the U.S. Do you think there are going to be many brown people there? You go to the nicest restaurant, 11 Madison Park in the world. Yeah. I went. I was literally the only brown person besides one of the hostesses. Yeah. Like, it's one of those things where you recognize it, and I think that it impacts us, you know? It's maybe not tangible in a way where we're like, oh, no, I feel awkward, but I think it resonates throughout. Yeah. And what I want Ethels to be is, it is a beautiful space. It's going to be luxury, gorgeous.
But black.
And it's made for you. Yeah. Like, you are welcome here. You should feel comfortable. Everyone here is brown. There is no weird sort of, like, you're not going to be followed by the person in the store. You're not going to be kicked out at, like, Starbucks. Like, it is a beautiful space created for brown people. Yeah. And I don't think we have that.
So, yeah, and I think it also has to do with our relationship with money. Yes. Like, as black people, I think we associate wealth with whiteness.
Yes, I totally agree.
And, like, now creating a space that is luxury,
right,
could make people feel uncomfortable or not.
Right. I think that it will help people kind of recognize that they deserve nice things too,
and happy, and also just joy.
Sure, like, we don't have to live these hard lives because we feel like we have to. We deserve to have a space to network and socialize and look at beautiful brown art and buy brown brands and talk to brown people and be in a space that Solange would have chosen if she could,
Exactly.
Like, I think that we owe that to ourselves.
No, agreed.
Yeah.
So what have you, just to wrap up, what have you learned throughout your career that you're bringing into Ethel's space?
That's a good question that I'm strangely unprepared for. What have I learned? I feel like I've learned a lot of boring stuff, but I think the thing that I've learned the most is to just keep going. I mean, there have been a couple of days where I'm like, what am I doing? This is ridiculous. Like, I have a job, just go do that. It's fine. Like, why have I decided to start an entirely different company that requires 120% of my time, that will take me away from my social life, that is going to require me to do lots of things outside of my current life that I could totally just stop, but I didn't. And I think every day that I get deeper into it, I'm happier that I did not. Yeah. Especially in the early days, I was like, no one would know if I just stopped, right? I just delete the Instagram, take down the website. I could totally make this disappear. But I think by continuing to keep on trucking on, it's gotten so much easier and clearer. I think in the beginning it was very, I didn't know where I was going to be. I didn't know what I was building for. And now I'm like, it's clear and we have a space and we have like, it's becoming more real. Yeah. And it's, I think about old Naj, who would have been like, I hate this, I'm quitting. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. Why did I ever think about that, Right. So definitely just keep going forward, keep pushing. It's hard. There's a reason why people aren't mostly entrepreneurs. It's difficult, know. But I think that just follow your own personal North Star and you'll get there. And then you'll laugh. You'll be on your yacht laughing.
Yeah, and how you thought this was impossible.
Never going to happen. Exactly.
Oh my god, thank you so much. This was so insightful.
I love being here.
Yeah, we should have you back because I feel like we could just go on forever and ever. I know.
Chat about it.
Honestly. No, we're so excited. When can we expect Ethels Club to open?
So Ethels Club,
I'll be the first one there.
First in line.
Yeah.
It will be opening this upcoming summer with the light date of August.
Okay.
And we are actually fleshing out possibly having a pop-up before that to give people a taste of what it will be like.
Yeah. No, we're excited. Great. So where can we find you?
So we have an Instagram, which is Ethels Club, and that's ETHELS Club, and ethelsclub.com, where you can sign up on the wait list.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!